Hey everyone, are we live? I think we are live.
Yes. Fingers crossed we're live right now.
We are juggling cameras and computers and technology of many interesting forms. So greetings everyone.
Hello.
Christopher Paolini here and
Immanuela here. Hi.
And we actually have separate mics this time.
Yes, and hopefully they're working. Can everybody hear both of us really well? Hopefully so.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is, as I said, this is an experiment for us. The whole team here has been working very hard on figuring out how to do live stream events. And if this works, and I'm sure we'll figure out how to make it work, we're going to be doing lots more in the future. So for those who don't know, Immanuela, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? You've been behind the scenes quite a bit and only in front of the camera a few times. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm Immanuela Meyer. A lot of you might have seen me sneaking around back on the back end of Christopher's website, occasionally making an appearance in his videos when it's appropriate. I tend to do artwork on the fly for him as well as graphic design. Some of the products, like this one, the blanket behind us.
Beautiful blanket.
Yes, I colorized it for Christopher, and
you don't want the color blind artist doing any sort of color work on your images.
Yeah.
That doesn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, there's arguing going on between us when we pick colors for these things.
Yes.
But I think the result is wonderful.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And you've been doing this we've been working together for a long time now.
10 years.
Yeah, it's going to be over 10 years.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is the Paolini, the crispy end of year holiday stream, and we're going to be doing a giveaway. And we're going to be doing some other awesome stuff, including some readings. And we want to talk a little bit about. I want to talk a little bit about things that are upcoming, projects that are in the works, and all of that. So the first big thing to talk about, of course, is the fact that there are going to be 2 books coming out next year. The first one, which has been announced, is Fractal Noise, which is my science fiction novel. That's the prequel to Sleep in a Sea of Stars. It takes place about 23 years, I think, something like that, before the events of To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. And yeah, I'm very excited about that. That comes out May 16th. So that's the first piece of news. The second piece of news, of course, is the mysterious dragon book that I've been working on. It's very mysterious. I mean, Immanuela, you haven't even seen it.
I have not seen it.
No.
I'm on pins and needles like everybody else.
But my editor is currently reading the most recent draft, or at least half of it. In fact, she texted me on her holiday right now, and she's just saying how much she loves the changes I've been making. So that's a lot of. It's really nice to hear, quite honestly.
Yeah, definitely. Holly says that there's an echo. Is it coming from my microphone? Should I remove it and we just pass it back and forth, or? One way or another. You guys Okay. I will take this one off. Holly, can you turn it down on the volume on mine? Thank you. Sorry, guys, technical difficulties over here.
All right, I think we're going to swap to this mic. I'm going to pull this one out.
Yep.
Sorry for the noise, folks.
Try that. New experiments. We're going at as much prep as we can, but sometimes we can't predict everything and all that happens. So.
Yeah, so we're doing the Daniel Green thing now.
Yes.
Let me reconnect that. All right, so Dragon Book, as I was saying, I can't give you the release date for that yet because it hasn't been officially set by, well, I can't even tell you who it's officially set with. But we're hoping that the title of the book and the cover of the book, as well as the release date, will be announced January, maybe February. It really just depends on me finishing the current rewrite. So that's the big push that I'm engaged in right now. Lots of very late nights and early mornings with editing, which is, always an interesting experience. But it's making the final product so much better, and I can't wait for you to read it. And the cover that we're working on is absolutely gorgeous. I think you guys are going to love it. And yeah, that's the big one. And I know some folks online have been asking. Yes, I will be going on book tour. I don't know how much for Fractal Noise, but it's probably going to be a huge book tour for the Dragon Book. And we'll announce all of that on the website, and yeah, we'll release lots of news about that
As soon as we have it, because we don't honestly have it yet.
No.
All. It's still under production.
And then, of course, the major piece of news on top of all this is the Disney Plus is working on adapting Eragon as a major television show. That's really the only bit of news on that up front I can give you. I know that the news about the series leaked a little bit early. For those wondering where we are in the process, we are currently working very hard to get some certain key personnel in place to actually make the show. Once that personnel is in place, there'll be a lot more to talk about, and there'll be a lot more happening, and I'll be able to share more. But again, until that happens, it's kind of mum's the word until we get the right person and persons signed on. Immanuela, you want to talk a little bit about this giveaway we're going to be doing, because it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've launched a giveaway. Ooh, I'll just hold on to it. Starting today, and it runs through January 6th at midnight. It's our way of saying thank you to the fans. We've had an incredible year. We've had really cool fan art, great interactions online. Without you guys, we couldn't do what we do. So we put together a giveaway with some of our most popular products in Christopher's Etsy shop. And we'll talk a little bit more about exactly what we're giving away. But if you want to go ahead and sign up for it, if you navigate to paolini.net, there is a pinned blog post at the top of the homepage. It's talking about the live stream. In that blog article, you will find the widget where you can go ahead and sign up or enter, so to speak, the giveaway. And
it's also in the link tree on Instagram.
Correct. Yes, and we're going to keep dropping more links as we catch up with all our technical stuff on our end. Also, to keep in mind, unfortunately, it's only for the US and Canada, this giveaway. We love and care for the fans outside of Canada and the US. We know you're there. We care about you. Our lawyers have told us that because of the complicated international sweepstakes laws, we can't actually offer it outside of Canada and the US. So know that we're thinking about you. It's not an intentional exclusion, it's a legal
and
requirement.
It's actually the same thing for like shipping stuff now to Europe and overseas. I mean, they keep putting more and more barriers in compliance issues for small businesses. So unfortunately, that is sort of insurmountable for us in certain ways, but we're doing the best we can, and we know that, as Immanuela said, that there are readers and fans all around the world, and we do our best to bring you what we can. Now, Immanuela, how long is the giveaway running for?
It runs through January 6th at midnight, so you have about a week in order to enter. And there's several ways that you can do so. You can decide, what works for you.
And it's completely free.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no fees, nothing. We'll ship the stuff to you.
Absolutely, and we will select the winners randomly. We're using a great app called Rafflecopter, which you will see. And so we don't do the picking. Yeah. The app does the picking. So it is completely randomized.
No favoritism.
No favoritism. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're all our favorites.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah. So before we talk about some of the things that we're going to be giving away, and we're going to show some stuff off, I'm going to do something that I haven't done in a long time, or actually ever before, which is a reading from Fractal Noise. But actually, I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm reading our little order of events here, and I'm actually going to answer some questions first.
Yes. I have them here for you, and we're in the process. Holly is behind the scenes. Holly, you want to pop up here really fast and show thyself to everybody?
Holly is the other part of the team here who makes things happen.
Yeah.
So, hi, Holly.
Hi. So she's collecting your questions right now behind the scenes. She's making this work, but we did pull some questions from our prior test live stream that people posted already. So we can start off with those for Christopher.
Sounds good.
Okay, so Miriam on YouTube says, does Eragon still write poems like the one he wrote for the blood ceremony?
I think as Eragon gets older, he gets more and more self-conscious about his writing, especially compared with the elves. So I think he does, but he probably keeps it to himself.
Okay. Also from Miriam, how old is Eragon by the end of Inheritance? There's different answers to how long the story took, my own being about 2 years, but I can't do math, so I need an official answer.
No, that's about right. It's about 2 years, especially if you tack on the chunk of time at the end of the last book where Eragon's traveling around the land and helping Nasuada sort of consolidate everything. So, yeah, about 2 years. I think he's essentially 18 at the end of the series.
Also from Miriam, did the city of El Harim, am I pronouncing that
You
correct?
are.
Okay. El Harim from the poem Nasuada recited have anything to do with whatever Murtagh and Thorn are going to encounter in the north? Also, was the man in the poem a shade since his eyes were yellow?
Boy, I really have to walk a fine line here. My default response is, of course, no comment. But I will say that, yes, the poem has a little bit to do with what's going on with Murtagh and Thorn. And as far as the man with the yellow eyes, no comment.
All right. Also, again from Miriam, did Galbatorix have Shruikan's eldunarí, or was it still inside of Shruikan's?
I've actually gone back and forth on that one. My original thought when I was writing the series was that the eldunarí was still in Shruikan. But later on, after thinking about it, I decided that Galbatorix, because he was a control freak in every sense of the word, would have forced Shruikan to disgorge his eldunarí, and because he probably did it when Shruikan was still fairly young, that's part of the reason why Shruikan's mental development was essentially stunted at a very young age. So the eldunarí did not increase in size as Shruikan increased in size, and of course Galbatorix pumped up Shruikan's growth, and he was an older dragon at that point. So no, I think he did force Shruikan to disgorge the eldunarí, and it was probably either destroyed or in the final battle or prior to that, or if it is in those last batch of eldunarí, he's not doing too well. That's one of the things that I've left open for a decision in a future story as to whether or not Shruikan's eldunarí still exists.
I always feel very bad for Shruikan. I think he's one of the big victims of the story.
He's a complete victim. No, he had a horrible time, and there was no redemption for him in a way, which is very sad.
Let's see here. We're getting some questions pulled up. I'm going to look at them. Let's see. From Chester on YouTube. Anyone specific you would like to compose the music score for Eragon?
Someone epic. There's, of course, Malta, who has done lots of fan music for the Inheritance Cycle and the Fractalverse, and done really, really good stuff. Some of this will be out of my control, of course. The studio and the showrunner will have their own opinions about who they would like to work on the show. But if I could resurrect someone, I'd love to get Basil Polidorus, who did the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack. Failing that, I don't know her name. I think it's Sarah something or other, but she did the soundtrack for Anthem as well as Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and she did something else recently that got a lot of attention. But she does beautiful soundtracks. Beor McCreary, of course, he just won for God of War Ragnarok. I've always liked his work ever since Battlestar Galactica. So I think there are a lot of good composers out there, and I would love to get one who feels a little bit more, I don't want to say alien, but like he's in an actual, like the music's actually coming from the world it's in and feels a little different while still feeling epic and awesome.
So from Mr. Venom 626 on YouTube. I wonder if Chris is going to include other dragon forms like the Eastern salamander or the European wyverns? Wyverns in the Eragon universe.
Great question. That's kind of why I have the Fangher, the flying little dragonettes in the Beor Mountains, and also the Nidewall, the sea serpents, because, my thought was if dragons naturally evolved on this planet, there would be at least some other similar species related to them somewhere in the world. So there could be other dragon species elsewhere in the world, but I don't think any of them would be, flying or quite like the dragons we see already, because otherwise they would have joined in the war with Galbatorix. That's something I think dragons everywhere were aware of.
From Lindsay on Facebook, what did Linnëa take from Eragon? Ooh, that's a common question.
Great question. Book 5.
He's so sneaky like that. From Carl on Facebook. Hello. Do you have actors in mind already for the series?
Ooh, I used to have a ton of actors in mind for different roles. The problem is it's been so long since Eragon came out, and also the film that shall not be named, that a lot of the people I had in mind have kind of aged out of their roles. So, I have a very open mind at the moment, and I don't want to commit to an answer since, again, this is going to be an involved process with the studio. But I still think Sean Bean would make a good Braum at this point, because then we can, kill him on screen one more time, as he deserves.
All right. The last question from this collected batch from Cassie0034 on YouTube. What is something you would change about book 1 if you could go back?
Ooh. I mean, aside from writing it better, just on a line-by-line basis, I think my temptation would be to add a little bit more to the characters in the world. I would love to have seen a little bit more with Saphira when she was really young, with Eragon, just a little bit more of that growth process. I've always wondered too, I've wanted to explain a little bit more. Now that I'm older, looking back on it, I'm thinking, so Garrow lets this 15-year-old take his bow and arrow and go off in the mountains deer hunting all by himself when there's bears and probably, mountain cats and snakes and urgles and who knows what else is out there. I feel like I missed an opportunity there to set up a little bit more conflict with Garrow, or to show a little bit better how self-sufficient Eragon is to a degree in the culture he lives in and in the family he lives, because Garrow is not particularly a particularly maternal person. So, one of these kids went off with a bow, maybe he'll get a deer, maybe he doesn't, good for him. So there's a lot of little things like that here and there that I would probably tweak. The biggest one actually isn't in Eragon, it's in Eldest. In retrospect, I've always thought I should have had a chapter from Nasuada's point of view showing what it took to get the Varden from Tronchim and Farthen Dur all the way over to Serta. And that could have been interesting.
Yeah. We've got another question. I want to make sure we're paying attention to our fans on Twitter and all the other platforms equally. So this is from Doug Toe on Twitter. Dear Mr. Paolini, dragons don't have obvious external biological differences. They also lay their eggs in very remote spots and mate high in the air. Has there been anyone who thought they arose sexlessly, similar to how Aristotle thought eels came from mud?
What an interesting question. No one's asked that before. There are some differences. The males and females of that species are built a little differently. It's not massively different, but it is a little bit different. So you could guess with pretty good accuracy if you're looking at a male dragon or a female dragon. So I don't think there's been any confusion in Alagaësia about whether or not they arose sexlessly. But that's a cool idea. I think that there would be much more of a chance of misapprehension or confusion in that regard with the Nidewall or even the Fanghur, but probably not with the main dragon species.
From Llama Glama. How old do you want Eragon to look in the Disney Plus show? Would you prefer him to look older or younger?
Great question. It's probably going to be, if it's going to deviate from the books in any direction, it'll probably be older, not younger. Partly because that will serve the books later on better. Also, there are all sorts of labor laws if you use really young actors and stuff. Like if you use an actor who's 18 or older, they can film as an adult, they can work those hours. But the biggest issue for me, just from a creative, best approach to the story standpoint, is that the actor has to look young enough to be believable when it comes to this being a coming-of-age story. They can't come of age if they're already grown up, unless we're writing a very different type of story. And I've seen this problem in certain shows, which I'm not going to mention, but I've seen this problem where they cast an actor who's too old, and you go, well, he's already grown up. He's not going through this process. But at the same time, Eragon has to look old enough that if he picks up a sword and gets into a fight, he doesn't look like he's just going to blow over, and it doesn't feel completely unrealistic that he can handle himself. And fortunately, in that sort of age range, you have a lot of people who are, younger and look older, and are older and look younger. So, great example actually of this are the recent Dune film with Timothée Chalamet.
Mm-hmm.
If you compare that with the original Dune film by David Lynch, I believe that Kyle, I'm forgetting the name of the actor who played Muad'Dib in the first film, but he actually was the same age or younger than Timothée Chalamet. And he looks completely different, like completely different bone structure. You probably wouldn't guess they were the same around the same age, just looking at them.
All right, should we do one more question and go to your beautiful fractal noise reading?
Sounds good.
Okay. We'll round out with another one of Miriam's YouTube questions. These are very unique, insightful questions. We're getting a lot of those right now, which is fun. How does Jeod know of the existence of the Inarë? And when in the books did Eragon see them? Because I think Jeod said something along the lines of, if what Eragon saw was true, then she could be an Inarë, or something like that. And even after rereading the books so many times, I still don't know what he means.
So for folks who are confused, this is from a letter that Jeod wrote that is included in the back of the deluxe edition of Inheritance. There are deluxe editions of all the books, and since they're no longer readily available, we have posted most of the extra content on paolini.net.
And search for deluxe scenes.
Deluxe scenes. And some of this stuff was so important that I actually included it in later printings of the books, such as the fact that in the last book, Eragon had promised Jeod that he would allow Jeod to fly on Saphira, and my editor cut that for pacing reasons in the first version of that book, and I was like, that really needs to be in there, so it's in later printings. Anyway, in this letter, Jeod was talking about Angela the herbalist, and was wondering if she was an Inarë. Eragon doesn't know that word. Jeod does. Jeod knows it because of his deep research and his work with the organization that he belongs to. And I really can't tell you anything more than that. I wish I could. If you read To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, you might actually get a little more of a hint as to what I am driving at. So that's the problem, is I have so many answers that I will give to you, but it requires me to write the next book, and slowly the pieces come together.
So when's your next book?
Well, May 16th. May 16th. So yeah, I'm gonna do a reading here from Fractal Noise, and what's kind of interesting for me is that I've done a ton of readings from the Inheritance cycle over the years. I have read from Eragon from thousands of times, and same for the other books. But for To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, I don't think I've read from that book more than maybe twice, maybe 3 times, just because COVID. And I didn't go on tour with it, and it was all digital events. So this is also now my first time reading from Fractal Noise, and really only the 3rd or 4th time I've read anything from the Fractalverse. This is from the first chapter. By the way, I should say there are spoilers here. The first chapter has been released online, free to read, and this is only a small section of the first chapter, so if you want to go read the rest of it, feel free. But there are spoilers here, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to... there's a little bit of bad language in this, so be forewarned. So we're on a spaceship. We are heading deeper into this system, where the planetary system where the space station is. They're on a survey mission. And our main character, our hero, so to speak, is a man by the name of Alex. And he has fallen asleep in his lab. He's a xenobiologist, so he's been studying various organic compounds and the planets they've been surveying. So I'm going to do my best to read this. This is from section 4 of chapter 1 of Fractal Noise. Here goes. A soft beep woke Alex. He started and looked around, confused. The lab was as dark as before. Nothing had changed. He scraped a bit crust of dried spittle from the corner of his mouth and checked his overlays. 2:14 a.m. He should have been in bed hours ago. A message alert blinked in the corner of his overlays. He tapped it. "Hey, come see me. You're not going to believe this. Jonah." Alex frowned. What was Jonas doing still up? The cartographer wasn't a night owl. No one on the survey team was, aside from Alex. And why ask to talk? The others didn't usually bother to interact with him, which was fine as far as Alex was concerned. Talking took too much energy. For a long moment, he debated whether it was worth getting up. He didn't want to, but even in his exhausted state, he was tired of being alone, and a latent curiosity pricked him. At last, the muscles in his back protested as he stood, and his left knee throbbed, the old skiing injury being its usual asshole self. For all the miracles of modern medicine, there were still some things that couldn't be fixed. The doctors claimed that nothing was wrong with the joint. It just hurt, like so much in life. Alex took his mug of chell, now cold but still smelling of the spiced flavor, and made his way out of the dim, red-lit lab. The main corridor was empty. His steps echoed off the gray metal, hollow and lonely, as if he were the only one left on the Adamura. He didn't bother buzzing when he reached the survey station. He just hit the button next to the door, and it slid open with a loud clank. Jonah looked over from his display. The light from the hollow painted his gaunt face a sickly yellow. Faint wrinkles radiated from his eyes, like the deltas of dried-out rivers. They reminded Alex of the rivers of Eidolon. He wished they didn't. "So you are up," said Jonah. His voice had a tense rasp. "Computer said you were." "What about you?" "Been busy. Couldn't sleep. Doesn't matter. Come look. Got a whopper this time." His eyes gleamed with feverish intensity. Alex sipped the chell as he went to stand by Jonah's shoulder. The tea stung his lips and his mouth and left behind a warm glow. Suspended in the display was an image of a flat brown plain. Somewhere, he guessed, on the northern hemisphere of Talos 7, the second planet in the system. A small, dark spot lay like a drop of ink in the center of the otherwise empty landscape. "That?" Alex asked. He pointed at the spot. "That," Jonah confirmed. He reached into the image and spread his hands, enlarging until the spot filled the display. A spike of adrenaline started to cut the haze in Alex's mind. Shit. Yeah. The spot wasn't a spot.
The mic's cutting out. Oh, maybe lower. It might be cutting out from being too high. Try that.
Apparently the mic is cutting out.
Yeah. On the stream? Okay.
Sorry, folks, we're having a technical interruption. We're just testing the mic. Sorry about that. Having some streaming issues. They will resolve shortly, or else we will beat the computers with a hammer.
Is it caught up?
Percussive maintenance has a long and honorable tradition. And dead space.
It's not coming back on? Do we need to jump over to YouTube Live?
And we never gave that information.
Not at the beginning.
No.
Yeah. We have things that we can push. We can push the asset.
Sorry, folks. We are working behind the scenes to figure out what is going on. Having some internet difficulties, which is what happens in Montana in the winter.
So is the video still showing, but the audio is frozen? Is that correct? Cutting out. But you hear it and then you don't hear it. I'm not sure what we should do with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're sorry, folks.
We're
We got intermittent audio.
Yes, we have intermittent audio issues. We are just doing some back scenes catch up. If this doesn't resolve itself, we will start streaming live just on YouTube, and we'll have you guys head over there. We will let you know for sure. But we are in process to see. Are you all picking up on audio cuts? Okay.
Well, nothing like technical difficulties while reading from a science fiction novel.
Yes. So apt.
Well, even if the audio is horrible, we can talk a little bit about some of the stuff that has gone into all of the merch. And
Yeah, we can at length.
I'll-
I can talk about that ad nauseum.
I want folks to hear what we have to say, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk if we're going to be interrupted here. This is, as I said, a learning experience with this streaming. So
Are we caught up? Or
I've been seeing comments that Facebook is working for people, so I
okay, let's
So,
just keep going.
apparently Facebook is working.
Yeah.
So I am going to finish this reading, and all of this will be available on YouTube
Yes,
after
and
the fact,
Facebook,
and
and
Facebook.
Facebook, and we will edit any interstitial material out so people can have a smooth viewing experience.
All right. Yeah, Facebook is working if anyone wants to go over there.
Or
The
refresh.
The spot wasn't a spot. It was a hole, a perfectly circular hole. The burning in Alex's eyes worsened as he stared. Are you sure it's real? Could it be a shadow of some kind? A trick of the light? Jonah grasped the edges of the hologram and turned it, showing the landscape from all sides. The black area was definitely a hole. I spotted it right after dinner, but I had to wait to get pictures from a different angle to be 100%. Could it be a sinkhole? Jonah snorted. That big? What's the scale? 50 kilometers from here to here. He indicated points on opposite sides of the hole. Shit. You said that already. For once, his tone didn't irritate Alex. A circular hole on an uninhabited planet located almost 40 light years from the nearest colony. At least, they thought it was uninhabited. What happens next? Well, you'll have to finish the chapter. All right, well, we will proceed as planned, I think. So we have some cool stuff to give away, and this is all merch that we have, as well as a few other interesting things that are not available on the Etsy store. So where do we want to start?
Do you want to just tell them exactly what we're giving away?
Well, we want to do some show and tell as well.
Yes,
Here,
yes.
I'll give you the microphone.
Okay. All right. I have the mic.
You have the mic.
I
So
have the mic.
first up, well, maybe
Yes.
I should hold the mic. And first up, we are giving away 6 box sets of the Inheritance Cycle. This does not include the Fork, the Witch, and the Worm, I'm sorry, but the full Inheritance Cycle, which I will sign. And these are courtesy of Penguin Random House. So we're very grateful to them for donating these. And, of course, beautiful art by John Jude Palancar on the spine and elsewhere. So if you would like to win some signed books, now is your chance.
And those books will also come with some of the most popular stickers that we have in the Etsy store. We're going to put a relevant sticker inside the book near the title page. So you'll get extra bonus goodies with this.
Next up is, is it this? It's this. Yes, it's the map fleece of Alagaësia. You know the text, the specs better than I do.
Yeah, so it's a double layer fleece. It's very thick. The quality style is called a pixel fleece. So as you'll notice, it's actually quite crisp, which is really unusual for fleece blankets. We did a heck of a lot of product testing. That's one thing that I can say with true honesty. We really care about people's experience with what we make for them. We spend sometimes, not exaggerating, months testing prototypes. I'm very anal retentive, and there are some downsides to that.
Same.
But the upside to that is that you're getting really high quality material here. It is a beautiful finish. It's heavy. It feels beautiful. Honestly, if you have kids, I'd probably even put it on the floor so they could crawl around on it.
Well, and I can actually say I have used this actual blanket on my bed on occasion. Back when I was under deadlines and babies were not sleeping and I had to sleep elsewhere, and I use this on the guest bed, and it is extraordinarily warm and comfy. It was awfully cool actually sleeping with this on the bed. And it reproduces the mountains and everything. And of course you can see Eragon's journey is traced out with footsteps, the journey in the first book.
Yeah, otherwise the whole land of Alagaësia would be bright red because of the footsteps if
Pretty
we did
much.
all 4 books. But we also I designed some symbols for places that are not on the original black and white map, like Mani's Caves. Is that the right way to say that, Mani? Mani's Caves, the floating crystal on the isle near Eom, right? Eom? I don't know if it's in frame, but it's down there. So you can
Brahm's tomb.
Yeah, on the listing, if you were to go to Christopher's Etsy store, which we will have links for, you will actually be able to look at a map legend and kind of identify those locations, which I think is a fun touch. I enjoy stuff like that.
Well, this was actually based off of the map that this was done for a special edition of Eragon Collector's Edition that Barnes & Noble did, and which may actually still be in stores, but we did a lot of extra content for that. So we also do a bunch of pins, and we're going to be giving away some pins. We have a blue yawë pin, and of course this is the symbol that is on Brahm's ring, Arryn, and also Arya has tattooed on her shoulder.
Yes.
And this is my favorite color, and it's just absolutely gorgeous on the ring.
And with these, again, it was important for us to give the weight of it a good, hefty feel. So we actually had them pour more metal than they would have to give you that experience. And what's also unique about them is that the company that produces them never can guarantee the same color again. So each batch is unique in the way it presents itself, which has provided us with some unique experiences as well, marketing them.
Well, and we handpicked these to have the best color we could find. I know, as with many of you, I'm like most fantasy fans, I like things that feel good, that feel like an artifact from another world or another time, and these definitely have that. So we have the blue yawë pin, and we're also giving away
Brisingr pins.
blue brisingr pin.
Yes.
Now, how many of these are we giving away? It is,
We are doing 5 of each of the types of pins. So
That's right.
5 yawë, 5 Brisingr.
and again, if you want to see pictures of these up close, they're on the Etsy store.
Yes.
Oh, yes. And how can you enter the giveaway?
We'll repeat that again. You can go to paolini.net, and there is a blog post that's pinned at the top of the homepage. You click on that blog post, and the widget is embedded in the page there, and you can choose to enter. There are also links on Christopher's link tree, and we'll be commenting.
Dropping the link in the comments.
Exactly, over time. So for both of these, I designed both of them, and the idea was also to give you as a viewing experience a sense of depth, which I feel that sometimes we lose with pins. They're always fun, but just a little extra something transparent can make a huge difference.
Yeah, they look better in person than the pictures, actually, and they feel good. So we have the pins, and we have 5 little one stickers. I'll swap you a pin for the stickers.
Yeah, I have to get it out though.
All of these come in a nice packaging, so that's
Little
what
inserts.
little inserts. We put a lot of work into these.
We do.
And this is a little drawing of Saphira and kind of a chibi Saphira and Eragon all curled up with glittery scales. So
And it says, "I love you, little
I
one."
love you, little one. So
This artist is quite talented. You can see her name on our Etsy store. If you want to check out the rest of her work, we have been absolutely delighted with this. It's so touching.
and then I'm gonna swap over because it's now my turn.
Yeah.
Let me see. We are doing some print giveaways also. So let me.
We're doing one of each of these prints.
So we are doing a print giveaway of. If you grab the other side, this is the black and white map. Of course, this is archival paper, archival ink.
It's autographed by hand at the bottom.
Yes,
By
yes,
Christopher?
by my clone, chained in the basement.
Yeah.
He signs everything. So
You're letting away all the secrets.
okay. Yeah. So all of these are high quality paper and inks, and then we have also a giveaway of this colored map, also signed by yours truly or my clone chained in the basement.
Yes, and let's talk about anal retentiveness. I shopped the United States to find just the right print company that would produce not only archival ink, archival paper,
but that it was a family business. And unfortunately, they closed recently due to COVID. So we found another family business based out of Billings, Montana. Just so you know, we try to work with the artistes of the world as well. And on that map, actually, that's a great way to show, you probably won't be able to read it very well, but that's that legend that I was mentioning that will also be up on the Etsy store. So if you can't wait, if you're like, I cannot miss out on potentially having these items, most of them are available for sale on the Etsy store if you so choose.
All right. Now, we can't really show this off too well on camera.
No.
But we have a woven blanket, also in the giveaway, which has
It's the other way. Yeah.
the Fractalverse Galaxy, which Immanuela did the art. And this is a gorgeous piece of art and a gorgeous tapestry, if you will.
Well, and it's a great throw on the couch, and this has been a question we've had before, so here comes more details than you ever wanted to know about woven blankets. These are actually individually colored threads, and they are woven together in North Carolina.
It's not just dyed.
Correct. Well, I'm sure the threads are dyed.
Sure, but it's not just surface dyed.
It's not a surface dye, yeah. And these are made in the United States by our production partner based out of North Carolina. They are great people. Again, long and hard searching to find just the right production partner.
And then last but not least, this is our newest product.
Yes, I'm proud of this one.
This one, I love the Fractalverse one, and I love this one. But this one's really kind of special to me. This is an actual tapestry of the map of Alagaësia, and this thing is just fantastic in person. So, don't know how well you can see it. We'll have pictures up somewhere.
Yep, they're on the
On
Etsy
Etsy,
store.
yep.
Yep.
So, I'm going to hang this on my wall in my office somewhere. So,
And again, this is all woven together. It is not, I don't believe it's a surface sublimation. It's a woven experience. And then they put a fabric on the back, and it is spot dry clean only. Again, just very high quality. It's very nice. We're excited to give these away. Let's just put it that way. And we're doing one of those.
well, and something that's on my plate is once I finish editing on the Dragon book, I have been meaning to and wanting to do a full world map for the world of Eragon, the world of Alagaësia. So, if I'm pleased with how that turns out, then we'll also be offering maps and other products with that at some point.
Yeah.
But I've needed to do this for a long time. I know there have been some fan versions out there, but I've been doing lots of, since both of us go way too in deep depth with stuff, I have been doing a deep dive into map projections and how to paint a flat map that can project onto a globe in the way I want, and then how to paint on a 3D globe, and then how to translate into the Mercator projector or other projections, and how to make it look like a fantasy map, and whether I want black and white or color. And anyway, short version is it's going to look awesome, and there'll be a couple of versions. But I'm actually really looking forward to doing that. That's going to be a fun project aside from editing.
So that concludes our show and tell, effectively, of the beautiful things that we're giving away to you guys. We are going to go back to answering some more questions. Holly has pulled together. Oh, yeah.
So I did think of something I meant to mention earlier in our conversation, which is as part of what is coming up on the docket, and I saw someone asked on Twitter earlier today, we are also working on a print version of Unity. Now, Unity is a interactive story that we have released for free on fractalverse.net, which is the official website for the Fractalverse, and it's set after the events of To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. And it was sort of my way of saying thank you to everyone for reading To Sleep in a Sea of Stars and providing a little more extra content for the universe. But I realized that we had commissioned so much concept art for the Fractalverse that we could essentially do a print version of Unity and do a beautiful version of that. So it was scheduled to come out this year, but as with all projects, there's a huge learning curve, and things always take longer than you expect. But we're getting very, very close to being done. The biggest I don't want to say stumbling block, the last thing that had to be done was commissioning a few extra pieces of art. And of course, Immanuela, this has been your baby. You've been doing all of this and laying out an interactive story where you have to it's non-linear plus pieces of art. That's not exactly easy, is it?
No, that is why anal retentive comes in handy.
Yeah.
So it's been a huge project and like a project of love, I guess. And once you guys get to see it, I'm really excited. I hope that you enjoy the experience.
And what's the size of the book? I mean, it's not going to be like a regular hardcover.
No, it's going to be landscape orientation. I believe the measurements, I will have to check myself. Final size will be 12 by 8, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then when it's open, obviously, we double that.
So like 2 feet.
Yeah, it'll be
Like
big.
2 feet wide when it's
Yeah.
open.
And the idea was, as we got so much great art from the people that we worked with, and so we wanted to showcase that. And how do you do that? You make it a little bit bigger. So, and also the colors would pop more. So.
Yeah, glossy pages and full
Yeah.
color and all of that. And that's the thing is, you see, I'm sure you've seen, various authors. I mean, Sanderson's a prime example, who do leather-bound editions and all of that. And that's something we certainly would love to do in the future. But building the infrastructure to get to that point is a lot. And you also have to balance that with like the plans that the publishers have for different editions and all that. So we have lots of plans. We've got a lot of things, and there'll be more news in the coming year that we can't. There's a couple other things I can't talk about quite yet. All right, Q&A.
Okay, Q&A. Let me get through here. And let's see. Going through here. From, oh gosh, I don't know how to pronounce this. At Tiamigas on Twitter. Will we ever know Angela's true name and past?
Not her true name, but you're going to learn more about her past.
Succinct. How about from at Jarrett's Daddy on Twitter? Who was the dragon that was in Lord Barst's armored chest?
One of the many dragons that, was killed and captured by Galbatorix. Well, I say killed, but the eldunarí lived on. Probably a wild dragon, because it might be a little more ferocious and suited to battle than one of the Rider's dragons. But I haven't named that dragon, so I can't give you any more information.
From Angelo of Death Metal on YouTube. Is the map/geography of Alagaësia inspired by your homeland in Montana?
Absolutely. The mountains here are some of the best in the world. There's a mountain just down the valley that has basically the same shape and size as Trondheim, and that's what I had in mind when writing about Trondheim. So, yeah, I mean, it's very inspiring to live in a place like this and be able to look out the window and see a landscape that looks like the Spine or the Beor Mountains. And I consider myself as much a writer of Montana as I am a writer of fantasy.
From David Hayden on Facebook. Was the world of Eragon... Oh, that was the one I just asked. From Crazy Cripple Couple on YouTube. Where in the world would you want the Eragon adaptations to be filmed?
Here, because then I don't have to leave home. And it looks appropriate. Unfortunately, the way the budgets work and the tax breaks work for filming, and of course the special effects, that probably won't happen. But of course they're filming Yellowstone and all the the related shows around here, so maybe that's changed. I do think that to do Eragon even on a very large television budget will require probably the use of what they call the volume, which is the technology they used with The Mandalorian and a bunch of other shows, where it's a giant bubble of screens that they project CG imagery on, and then they can just film it like you're actually there. I think that's going to be the only way to do everything we need to do for Eragon. But I would love to see some stuff filmed here or British Columbia. They did film in British Columbia for the film adaptation, but I think it was just for some of the shots of them traveling in the mountains and that sort of thing.
From the Gecko Gang on YouTube, will Arya make an appearance in the next Dragon book? Fine if you can't say. Will there be any familiar characters?
No comment and no comment.
Also from the Gecko Gang, will we learn more about Tenga?
Eventually, yes. I can't believe I just said that.
Molly Merrifield on YouTube. Oh my God, is this like a multiverse situation with Eragon and To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, or just crossover?
Well, Angela is a special case. I wouldn't use her as the rule to define things, but I do have some longer term plans. So I'm just gonna keep writing, and you'll get to see them as they unfold.
Facebook. Aaron Cassidy. How are the babies doing?
Oh, hold on.
They are so good. Oh, here comes Chiara.
Say hi, Chiara. Since Chiara is internet famous, she has to say hi every time I do a live stream or interview.
And deposit hair.
And deposit hair on my shirt.
Is she purring?
She's getting there. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
How are the babies doing? Well, for those who don't know, my wife and I had our second child, our daughter, in September. So we have been thoroughly sleep deprived for the last almost 4 months, and but both babies are doing really, really well and growing healthily and fast, and
they are very adorable.
They're very adorable and just developing like crazy. It's just been and continues to be amazing to see their brains advancing just day by day. It's parenthood is the most amazing journey, and I have learned so much from it and continue to learn so much from it. And I expected it to be a big change, but you don't realize how big of a change it is until you actually experience it. And it really does place more of an emphasis on different aspects of your life, and things that you may have considered important before may become even more important or less important. But I do think that I'm grateful that we have our children, and it has definitely enriched our lives in countless ways. That and no sleep.
No sleep.
No sleep.
Mm-hmm.
If there are typos in Fractal Noise or the Dragon Book, you know why now. Also, to sleep. I cannot even tell you the push that has been going on here with low hours of sleep, but it's all worth it.
Awesome. Let's see. Question. Is it possible that there will be more entries in the Tales from Alagaësia anthology series?
Before I answer that, I just want to go back to the babies question, because I have been meaning to post a picture for ages, and I have to do it because for my daughter, I got this antique wooden sort of like rocking cradle thing that sits on the floor, and it has like a little roof that will go over the head. I found it in a little antique shop in Livingston, Montana, an antique shop called Junk and Disorderly, which I just think is the best title, best name ever. But it has, I fixed the whole thing up and did some wood burning, and actually has a phrase in the ancient language on the cradle to, I don't know, watch over her a little bit. So I'll see about getting a picture of that posted. As far as this question goes, will there be more entries in the Tales from Alagaësia anthology series? Absolutely. And in fact, I may write the next one next year. I would love to get another book written next year. I was hoping to get another book written this year, but I've been consumed with editing Fractal Noise and the Dragon Book, and I was also writing some screenplays for the To Sleep in a Sea of Stars television adaptation, which is moving forward at a glacial pace, but still moving forward, as Hollywood does. But I was also working on scripts for that, and probably will be again next year. But I would very much like to write another Tales from Alagaësia next year, although it wouldn't come out next year. At least it would be written, and then possibly something else. So even if I can't have a book come out every year at this point, I'm trying to keep them maybe every other year. Depends on the size of the book. But hey, 2 books in 1 year next year on the 20th anniversary of Eragon's release from Random House. Not too shabby.
3 if you add Unity.
Yeah, 3 if we add Unity. That's right.
Yeah.
So.
Let's see here. Do you think you'll make movies about the rest of the Eragon books?
Well, I mean, that's obviously the hope with this adaptation. Movies. Sorry,
Yes,
my brain was still in televisions. No, I mean, if Eragon is successfully adapted on Disney Plus, then we will move on to Eldest, Brisingr, and Inheritance, and all of those will get adapted as part of the television show. Whether or not we would ever get film adaptations of those books, I mean, that would have to be long after the television show. So I don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon, quite honestly. But we can hope for the television show.
So, from @fam_row on Twitter, the Beors are stupendously large, and the dwarves claim to live in them for a very long time, so they should have worn down by now. Is their size a result of magic somehow?
Absolutely. Also, the formation of the Haderach Desert. The two are linked. So, when I was working on Eragon, I remember reading an article that the mountains in New Zealand, southern island of New Zealand, were uplifting so fast that if it weren't for erosion, they would already be 10 miles high. And so I thought, well, that's kind of an interesting fact. So what if we had some sort of magic that stopped the erosion on the tops of these mountains, and they got to be 10 miles high? So yes, that's the creation of the Beor Mountains was a work of magic, and it also resulted in the formation of the Haderach Desert as the mountains kind of block and suck up a huge amount of moisture.
From the Tanner Mott on Twitter, can speaking in the ancient language let you learn objective truth? For example, before Eragon saw that the world wasn't flat, could he have said in the ancient language that it was, or would it have stopped him because that's a lie?
Great question. That's a philosophical question. I went back and forth on this in the early days of working on this. What I ended up settling on is, because I have not said that there's some outside intelligence that is mediating the ancient language. So there isn't a deity, for example, or an extremely powerful magician who's listening in on every use of the words and saying yes, that's true, and no, that's not. It is possible to say things that are objectively false as long as you believe them to be true. So that's your wiggle room for lying in the ancient language. You have to trick yourself into believing that what you're saying is true. Now, if it's undeniable that what you're saying is false, then obviously you can't say it. And there are some things that even if you believed it to be false, you might not be able to do it because it counteracts the very nature of the word you're using, if that makes sense. Like, you can't say fire is wet necessarily. But if you really, really convinced yourself that fire was wet, maybe you could say it. It's a gray area. But the fact that the language represents truth and you can't lie in it is not a supernatural thing. This isn't objective truth. This is subjective truth to a degree. That's a tricky question to answer.
It is.
That's a tricky
It's
question.
a wonderful question, though. From Lord of the Losers, his name, not mine. Could a dragon rider choose to use bright steel weapons other than a sword? For example, a spear. It seems like it would make better use of the steel anyways. I know the answer to that one.
That's a good question. Oh, wait. Also, going back to the previous question, if it were the case that you could learn objective truths about the world with the language by saying the world is flat and you can't say it in the ancient language, the problem is all of that would be limited by the knowledge base that the gray folk had when they enchanted the ancient language. So if they truly believed that the world was flat when they enchanted the ancient language, then that would be an encoded truth in the ancient language for the rest of time, which obviously doesn't work. Anyway, what was the question?
Bright steel.
Bright steel. Yes, you could make other weapons with bright steel. I think that the swords were more of a symbol than anything, since the riders were not supposed to be, frontline warriors. They were supposed to be peacekeepers more than anything. So they weren't hauling around ballista on the back of the dragons. They weren't carrying the Douth darts, the dragon-killing spears. They were supposed to show up and be able to fight if they needed to, but for the most part, trying to resolve differences, trying to mediate, things like that. In which case, a civilized weapon at your side makes a lot of sense versus walking in with a battlefield weapon like a spear. But they did make some.
From Molly, would you rather use CGI for the Urgles or more of a Peter Jackson approach with prosthetics?
Prosthetics, but it would also depend if we're talking about a regular Urgle or a Cull, because, like, Nargarjvog is I want to say 8.5 feet tall, if I'm remembering correctly from the books. You can't do that with prosthetics, and that's difficult to do with forced perspective. So CG these days is so good that I would lean toward probably just doing CG for the larger Urgals, and then the more reasonably sized ones you could probably do prosthetics. But maybe prosthetics with some CG enhancement would be the way to go.
Are you planning on keeping Eragon illiterate as he was through the first half of Eragon?
No, I mean, because he does learn how to read, and he, of course, is writing and trying to write poetry in Eldest. And we even see some more of him, I think, reading and writing in The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm. So no, he's not illiterate, and he doesn't stay illiterate, even if reading isn't always the easiest thing for him. But hey, he's a dragon writer. He has a lot of time to work on it.
Besides the Inheritance Cycle and the Fractalverse, do you plan on writing other science fiction or fantasy series?
Yes, but they'll probably be in the world of Eragon or in the Fractalverse. Just because they give me so many ideas and they're such big settings, I can tell almost any type of story within them. There are a couple of exceptions. I'll admit that. There are a couple of story ideas I have that aren't necessarily one or the other, but most of the ideas I have will fit in either of those two universes. And that was the whole reason I put, years of research into creating the Fractalverse, so that it's there. I can play in it. I can write a modern day story, or I can write a far future story, or story in the deep past, and they can all fit into the Fractalverse. And then if I want to write fantasy, hey, I've got Alagaësia to play in. Of course, some fantasy stories wouldn't fit in Alagaësia, and in which case it would probably be a standalone. Or I can just get overly clever and say that it's a fictitious book written it's a fantasy book written in the Fractalverse.
I think you've done that.
Well, I did a little one. I never talked about that.
Did
I never told them about that story.
I'm telling secrets.
Should I tell them?
Yes.
Should I tell them?
Tell them.
So years ago, I got approached by, I want to say it was Boys Life magazine,
I think.
to see if I wanted to write like a short story for them. And I love pulpy sci-fi, so I wrote a straight up, the first chapter of an extremely pulpy science fiction story. And I'm actually going to tell you a little bit about it because it's mentioned in Fractal Noise. So it's okay now to say something because it's actually coming, a mention of it is coming out. But this first book was Captain Ace Savage and the Fiendish Plot of Queen Dragica by Horace Murgatroyd III, writing for the Pluto Daily, as trans-temporally transcribed by yours truly, Christopher Paolini. And I wrote the first chapter of this thing, and it was absolutely a blast. And I didn't end up using it with Boys Life for various reasons, but I've always wanted to finish this and just write a straight pulpy, like Edgar Rice Burroughs, E.E. Docksmith style, story. I even did a drawing for it of the spaceship and everything. So
You did.
I might finish that up just for a blast at some point. But the problem with this is it's easy to write one chapter that's a spoof, but figuring out how to make a whole, even just a short book work as a story while still being funny is really hard. So I'm not going to go ahead and write the rest of it unless I get a real sense for what Mr. Captain Ace Savage's story actually is, his personal story. But yes, so that is a piece of fiction that's written within the Fractalverse. Now, these are some absolutely great questions.
Yes.
So thank you, everyone, for submitting. I know there's more pouring in, but how are we doing on time
So
here?
we are at an hour now. We had planned to have you do an excerpt reading from Eragon, if you still would like to do so.
Well, I think I can
Muster up.
muster up some spirit for that. I think we're going to end out with a reading and then a couple of final words. So I just have to find the proper page, which I have not done in ages. So everyone give me I should have looked up the page number beforehand. I used to know this off the top of my head.
And I've done a lot of readings.
Yes, I have.
While he's looking for the page, I'm going to take the microphone. Just to reiterate for everybody that we will be putting more links up everywhere of the things that we have mentioned. If you want to sign up for the giveaway,
go to paolini.net, click on the blog post that's pinned at the top that says Livestream, and enter the widget there. And you have several opportunities to do so. That giveaway will run through for a week. So you have opportunities here. And yes, we will also be posting the final version of this on YouTube and Facebook. So if anybody is missing it or wants to watch it again, it will be there for your perusal. We will, as we're able to, also add closed captioning, because I know a lot of you guys have been requesting that. So that will come as well as soon as we can finish doing the syncing for that. So here we go.
I actually used to have this reading memorized.
You did?
Yeah, I used to have a whole bunch of readings from Eragon memorized because I did so many events with it. And actually, I do want to say also before I get into this that I appreciate everyone who sends me messages on social media, but it has reached the point where I just cannot keep up with it. With the babies and deadlines on 2 books and television shows, it's just become impossible. I used to really, sit down and put in a couple hours and answer all the questions and comments on Reddit or Instagram or Twitter. And unfortunately, that's just become untenable. So I want to thank everyone for submitting questions today, and we're going to keep trying to do, events like this where I can answer a bunch of questions in a big batch.
And just so you guys do know that Holly and I are creeping around on the back end of things, and we pull the questions that you guys do have anytime we find ones that haven't been answered. We put them in a reliquary, and then we throw them at Christopher when he has a spare 10 minutes, and then we edit it and we throw it out to you guys again. So don't worry if you are posting questions for this Q&A and they didn't get answered, or if you have posted questions in the past, don't lose hope. We are paying attention, and we are just trying to maximize his writing time and recovery time from baby time and his ability to keep producing while we also keep in touch with you guys and try to make it a good time.
Yeah, because I think I've done something like 30,000 comments on Reddit, and that's not even counting like the DMs and stuff. So
yeah, and I have gone through those 30,000 comments and pulled them, just so you know.
Okay, so this is from the chapter Bless the Child, Arjitlam. This is one of the readings I always used to do when traveling around to schools. This is page 428 in the hardcover, in case anyone wants to follow along. And Eragon and Saphira are in Trondheim. Actually, they're about to take off right outside of Trondheim, and the following happens. Before she could take off, an old woman stepped forward and grasped Eragon's foot with a fierce grip. He tried to pull away, but her hand was like an iron talon around his ankle. He could not break her tenacious hold. The burning gray eyes she fixed on him were surrounded by a lifetime's worth of wrinkles. The skin was folded in long creases down her sunken cheeks. A tattered bundle rested in the crook of her left arm. Frightened, Eragon asked, "What do you want?" The woman tilted her arm, and a cloth fell from the bundle, revealing a baby's face. Hoarse and desperate, she said, "The child has no parents. There's no one to care for her but me, and I am weak. Bless her with your power, Arjitlam. Bless her for luck." Eragon looked to Oric for help, but the dwarf only watched with a guarded expression. The small crowd fell silent, waiting for his response. The woman's eyes were still fastened on him. "Bless her, Arjitlam, bless her," she insisted. Eragon had never blessed anyone. It was not something done lightly in Alagaësia, as a blessing could easily go awry and prove to be more curse than boon, especially if it was spoken with ill intent or lack of conviction. Do I dare take that responsibility, he wondered. Bless her, Arjitlam, bless her! Suddenly decided, he searched for a phrase or expression to use. Nothing came to mind until, inspired, he thought of the ancient language. This would be a true blessing, spoken with words of power by one of power. He bent down and tugged the glove off his right hand. Laying his palm on the babe's brow, he intoned, "Atra gule un ilian, tauther ono un atra ono, waise skolder fra rather." The words left him unexpectedly weak, as if he had used magic. He slowly pulled the glove back on and said to the woman, "That is all I can do for her. If any words have the power to forestall tragedy, it will be those." "Thank you, Arjitlam," she whispered, bowing slightly. She started to cover the baby again, but Saphira snorted and twisted until her head loomed over the child. The woman grew rigid, her breath caught in her chest. Then Saphira lowered her snout and brushed the baby between the eyes with the tip of her nose, and smoothly lifted away. A gasp ran through the crowd, for on the child's forehead, where Saphira had touched her, was a star-shaped patch of skin as white and silvery as Eragon's Gedway Ignazia. The woman stared at Saphira with a feverish gaze, wordless thanks in her eyes. Aw. And there goes Elva. Well, this has been an absolute blast, Immanuela. Thank you for participating.
Thanks for asking me to.
Thanks to all of you for watching and being with us here at this holiday end-of-year Paolini team stream.
There are so many asks on everyone's time, so we truly appreciate it that you joined in with us. And let us know in the comments if you can. Do you want to see us do this again? How often would you like to see this again? What if we did it every quarter? Would that be cool? Would we like that? Yeah. Just let us know.
Hopefully with a functioning microphone for the two of us.
Very much so, and fewer dead space gaps with microphone glitches. But again, it's a learning experience for us, and we thank you for your patience with all of this. We are trying to do the best we can for you, and that'll get better every time we do this.
Absolutely. And and how can people sign up for the giveaway?
Holly is prompting us to repeat that. So if you want to sign up for the giveaway, go ahead and navigate to paolini.net and go to the blog post that is pinned at the top of the page there. Click on it. It's called Livestream. And in that, you can sign up on the widget. You can also look on Christopher's link tree, and we will post appropriate links in the description of this video. So there are numerous ways in which over the next week you can choose to sign up for this giveaway. All free, randomly selected people, best merch that we have. Everybody loves it. Please sign up.
Also, we teased this a few places online, but if you haven't seen it, if you would like to see some alternate art, cover art that was done for Fractal Noise, we have a hidden page on fractalverse.net, and if you do some poking around, it's the Secret 7 page.
Otherwise known as.
Yes, but you'll have to do some poking around to find it because it's an unlisted page. But if you can find it, it'll lead you on a fun little Easter egg hunt to see a whole bunch of the different cover concepts. And again, just to go over it again, as far as upcoming stuff, the first thing will probably be the announcement of the Dragon Book, which will be January, February, if I do my job with editing. Unity should be fairly soon after that.
Please, yes, I would love that.
Unity will be available fairly soon in the new year. And then Fractal Noise comes out May 16th, and the Dragon Book should be dropping end of the year, somewhere in the holiday season. And of course, if there's news on the television shows, I will be sure to let you know. So I think that covers the big points.
Yes, big thank you to Holly, back behind the scenes, slaving away, keeping us going over here. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I hope all of you watching have a wonderful, happy new year. I hope the 2023 treats you even better than 2022, and that maybe the world news is a little bit calmer for this coming year. But I don't think it's going to be.
Really? I want to.
Yes. But if nothing else, there'll be lots of new books published to read.
That's right.
So thank you, everyone. We're going to sign out. Happy holidays. Have a wonderful end of the year, and we will talk soon.